Welcome to the D-Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the D-Shift podcast. And today we're going to talk about something that I think is really critical to post-divorce life, and that is creating a home, an environment that just feels like you, and it's a good place to be. And I have an expert on the show today to talk with us about this. I'd like to introduce you to Kim Costa. She is a top 5% realtor with Sotheby's International Realty. Oh my gosh, I can't even speak today. She's the creator of the Wheelhouse Method, which she's going to tell us a little bit about today. And Kim also has her own podcast and her own show on the American Dream TV. So I am really excited, Kim, to have you on here and to talk to you, because I think this is a really under-considered part of healing and recovery after divorce. So welcome, Kim.
Thank you so much for having me. And I agree with you. It's definitely not considered as much until you can't figure out why you're sad already, but why you're just feeling so out of sorts.
Exactly. And before we get into this, because I know this is a topic that I think is going to be it's going to be fun to explore it. And it's going to be something that maybe a lot of people think, yeah, I never thought about that. Before we get into all that good stuff, tell us a little bit about yourself and why this is sort of your area of focus. I know your podcast is the Wheelhouse, or your Wheelhouse. I'm sorry, right?
Yeah.
And so, tell us a little bit about
live in your
stuff.
wheelhouse.
Tell us a little bit about all the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I've been a realtor since 2017. Before that, I was in residential construction, so we're building outdoor environments for people. Also have a background in interior design and all that, and then a master's work in human resource development, which is like really, really, really where my heart lies. My parents were both human resource directors, specialists. And so I always hear, this job wasn't in their wheelhouse, or we hired him because this is so in his wheelhouse or her wheelhouse. And so I kind of grew up with that, seeing people's potential.
Yeah.
But I also combine that with seeing a home's potential and hopefully can help those two match, especially through life transitions. I've been through quite a few myself, divorced for, I think 13 years now.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of, have had life transition myself. And when you reinvent yourself or you have some kind of big life change, your home should be changing as well.
So,
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. When you talk about first, let's talk about the whole idea of reclaiming an environment. I think that's a really unique topic. And when I saw it, I thought, wow, that's something I really want to learn more about. So any way you want to take that one, Kim.
Okay, good. Well, so the subtitle of the book is An Empowering Guide to Stay, Go, or Reno. And that does not just mean your house, because all of us who are about to be or are getting or are already divorced, we've had to change a lot of things. So sometimes this decision is kind of forced upon you. Sometimes you make it yourself, but you also, within life's transitions, you lived in a home with somebody that you're no longer attached to. So are you staying in the home? Are you leaving and going somewhere else? Or are you hopefully going to change a few things in the home to suit you in your new form of life as it is? Like I talked to a lady about a month ago, and she still had her ex-husband's vinyl studio in the basement. And I said, well, why don't you repurpose that for yourself? Put your podcast studio down there. Forget that room's purpose is no longer serving you.
Right.
So, it's starting with little things, whether you're staying, going, or renovating, because your life has changed and now your home probably needs to change as well.
And that is so true. I've been through a divorce. I've also been through a spouse passing away. And in both cases, like they're different experiences, but still there's that sense of, okay, now it's just me. So, what do you do? And I know even some of my clients, the first thing they want to do is they want to paint the house because,
Mm.
they like, say, vibrant colors, and their spouse only
Yes,
wanted neutrals or whatever.
that
And,
is
and
so
even
funny.
simple changes like that can make a big difference.
I think that's a huge change. Well, first of all, it is not inexpensive to paint your house, so that's a fairly expensive decision in most cases, unless you're just changing a room. I am really big on like, what's your color? I just had a girlfriend. I said, I swear you're in autumn, and like maybe you need some brighter colors, And she was like, I am. I can't believe it. And I said, well, you need to incorporate those in your house as well. I'm an autumn myself, and my husband is, I think he's a summer. He has these bright blue eyes, Italian guy. And so we have a lot of grays in our home. Gray doesn't necessarily look great on me. However, in my remarried situation, I want to blend those two, right? Um, but I don't necessarily want to live in a home that reflects somebody else's who's not there anymore, their taste, their things, their colors.
Yeah.
And so I think changing your surroundings for what suits you and what supports you and what makes you look good. Like if you're going to entertain in your home, girl, throw
Yeah.
some paint up that
Yeah.
makes you look good. Forget
Yeah.
about the scarf. Put the
Exactly.
paint up.
And it's way different when you walk into a house and you look around and it's aesthetically pleasing for you.
Yes.
Because that's one of the things that a lot of people, they keep their house for their spouse.
Yeah.
We keep it
Yes.
because this is what we always did, or and if your spouse has passed away, sometimes you keep it the same way because you have good memories associated
Yes.
with that. But even then, at some point in time, it no longer is serving a purpose or function for you.
Right. And it's fine to keep things for sentimental reasons. That's lovely. I mean, your love doesn't die when your beloved spouse dies. So absolutely, but just so that you're not living in the past, I
Yeah.
think a refresh is in order. So if you go on a trip, and you find a lovely sculpture or a little painting or some memento from that trip that was joyful to you, it's not ruining the memory of that person, or it's a fresh start in the case of a divorce.
Right.
You're bringing yourself into your home. And when you look at that painting, piece of art, scarf, whatever it is you got from where you went that brings you joy, you think, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm becoming me again.
Yeah.
In either circumstance, I'm going to thrive, and this is just a little sign in my home that I can look at that shows me that like it's going to be okay.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, especially if it was a very difficult divorce, or if it wasn't a terribly happy marriage, or
Mhm.
if it was a horrible marriage, making a lot of changes can give the home, if you're keeping it, a
Yes,
different perspective. So yes, it's still your home, still in your same neighborhood, but it's not that constant reminder of all of the negativity that went on in there.
absolutely. Completely. And so I think I've had people even take out, I have some sage in my drawer, and it kind of clears the home.
Right.
And even just that ritual, of doing something that kind of clears a space for you mentally. And it's just a subtle reminder that you are still you, and that you're progressing, and you have the rest of your life to live
Yeah.
as the real you. And maybe that divorce took some effort and time and money and emotional strife from you, but you can renew yourself through your surroundings,
Yeah.
you know.
So
Mhm.
let's talk about something else that you really focus on and help your clients understand. And I think this is something that I was not aware of either, that how
Mhm.
your space can affect your healing process. And we
Mm.
talked a little bit about this before we got on the call, but can you go a little deeper into that, Kim?
Sure. Well, okay, so what I did, and this is just for me. Some people don't want to leave their home because they want their kids to feel comfortable. They want some transition time so that the grown or young children feel like there's some continuity. And so that's lovely. And they want to keep the kids' rooms the same, but slowly, maybe don't do it right away, because divorce is in the top three stressors of your lifetime. Guess what else is? Moving.
Yes.
Moving is also a top three stressor. Combine the two of those if you can help it. Try not to combine the two of those. Push the pause button. Do some research on where you want to go next, if you want to go somewhere, or how you want to renovate or remodel. So push the pause button and
Yeah.
kind of create some vision for yourself. Like, what do I want the next phase of my life to look like? Is there a hobby that I gave up in that relationship that I want to rekindle and meet some new people? And so just, don't stress yourself out too much if you can afford to stay in the home for a moment, or you can go, if you can't do that. I went somewhere small. I went to a luxury apartment in a place called Avalon here in Alpharetta, Georgia, and bought some brand new furniture that was very feminine. And like my colors. And I still in my office right now, I have what I call the Divine Goddess. It's a painting that's quite large. I'd say it's 3 by 5 feet, and it's just a lovely white dress. And it was from Marianne Williamson's book. There was the Divine Goddess, and it's about, are you fulfilling your life's purpose and who you were born to be? And so that was my inspiration. I had it like right there in my bedroom, and I would wake up to it every day. I chose a place where the sun rose through the large windows because my previous spot was kind of dark. Light-wise, was facing north, I think.
Right.
So I chose a cheery space and filled my home with like reflections of who I wanted to be.
Oh, that
13
is
years
such
ago.
a great idea.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that idea of bringing art in that represents you. And
Yes.
today, you can find a lot of art online that you
Yes.
maybe it's not originals, maybe it's replicas or
Mine's a
whatever. It
replica.
doesn't matter.
Just as
It's
beautiful.
still beautiful. And who
Yeah.
cares?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was drawn to it when I was shopping for a new bedroom suite. And I just pushed the pause button on like all the maintenance of a large home
Hmm.
and just moved right into that. And I could walk downstairs for dinner if I didn't want to cook. And I focused on where do I want to go from here?
Right.
Um, yeah.
And I was going to say, I think that sometimes we have this understanding that, oh, we can't move because the kids are here. And the
Hmm.
kids can have bad memories in a home as well. Like a
Very
home
much
is
so.
not always this welcoming, happy place for kids if
Right.
they've experienced, a lot of conflict between the parents in that or whatever. And I always tell parents, kids are pretty resilient.
Hmm.
And I think a big mistake, and I don't know how you feel about this, so you don't have to agree with me at all, but I think a big mistake a lot of people believe is I want to hang on to the home because I think at some point in time, my adult children are going to want this home. And I think most adult kids don't want the family
Oh my
home.
gosh, they
I
don't
mean, they
want
do
anything.
occasionally, but not, they'd rather have the cash. Like,
They would. It's kind of sad. I don't know. Maybe, multi-generational living is coming back into style. It's like the newest trend. So that's interesting. But, I tried to give my kids everything. Like, I don't want the marital china. I don't want the china case. I don't want the dining room set. I don't want all the colored furniture that I had in our marital home. Like, I got all of that. And I was like, finally, I said, oh, you know what?
right,
I gave it to the people who bought my townhome. Like, not really gave it. I sold it
right,
to them for a good
right,
price. But our children, they don't necessarily want all of our things. I mean,
yeah,
now mementos, I still have a lot of those things.
yeah,
But it just reminded me of a scenario that I wasn't happy in.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the key, right? What is the emotional or the energetic feel when you're around specific objects or specific places? And if it's
Hmm.
not good,
Yeah.
when you can change
Yes.
it out. And obviously for some people, it may be a budget issue. Maybe you're going to have to keep some of the old furniture around for a
That's
while.
right.
But over time, you can create a plan and start, as you
Yeah.
can afford it, replacing things. And
Abs-
like you say, surrounding yourself with things that give you that sense of happiness and joy and really feeling like your home is your own.
Yes. I mean, it could just be as simple as get some piece of artwork or a pillow or a rug or a blanket that has, colors, or it reminds you of a good spot that you were in that you wake up to every day, because
Yeah.
that starts your day off with something new and positive. Yeah. You don't have to break the bank.
Yeah. That's true. And
Hmm.
you could do a lot of remodeling yourself, or
Hmm.
maybe not big remodeling things, but like you can just about Google anything on YouTube and have a step by step how to do it. I changed out my own kitchen faucets. I was so damn proud of
Oh,
myself for doing that.
that's
But
awesome.
you can do those if you're so inclined. If you're not,
If you're
you can
inclined.
hire somebody to do it. So
Absolutely.
yeah, lots of
Now,
options.
there is one more thing I would love to add is like, so my process in my book is about what's in your home, but it's also about what's in your community. So again, like maybe there's something that you wanted to do, but you were busy, in the married life doing the together things that you no longer have. So what's something in your community also that you haven't been able to do? For me, it's like joining a book club. There's a wonderful book club in my community and playing pickleball.
I was going to
Um,
say pickleball. Everybody wants to
yes.
do that now.
Pickleball or solo travel. There's
Mhm.
so many solo travel groups. I know someone who where did he just go? Thailand, I think. So
Yeah,
he went with a group and made 20 new friends.
yeah.
So I think, once you get to a certain point where there's a grieving process, of course, and during the whole process, it's something you have to get through, but plan some nice things for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Kim, because you are such an expert in real estate, I was wondering, are there any, you said there's a trend of multi-generational living and stuff.
Hmm.
Are there other trends that you're seeing now in the real estate world that, if you're considering, should you stay, should you go, or should you reno? I love
Hmm.
that. What are some of the things that maybe people that are trying to make this decision, what should we be aware of?
Well, I mean, a huge trend. So I'm about to turn 60, and a huge trend for like, I would say middle-aged and to retirement age is the lock and leave lifestyle, where we're not maintaining large homes or large yards anymore. And on our weekends, we're either locking and leaving and walking to a downtown area. So being close to restaurants and things is a very popular thing in my particular area, and I think across the country. But also, even if it's a fairly remote property, just a simplified exterior and interior maintenance where folks can go do the things now that they're retiring or don't have children's activities anymore, that they're traveling, they're
Right,
visiting children who are in other cities, and the children are now having rooms for their parents in their home
right,
because their children are now busy and they can't leave their home. So I think things are just opening up a little bit more to A, I'm going to keep my large home. And I mean, or I'm going to get a parcel of land and have several different homes on it. And the family is going to have separate dwellings or separate floors, but we're all going to live together. So, grandma and grandpa can watch kids
right.
while the mom who might be divorced can travel for work
Mhm.
or travel for fun or whatever it is, or go to work 9 to 5.
Right, right.
Yep.
And that's what I think is so interesting talking to people who are in the real estate field and like you do. I mean, you talk to a lot of people, you interview people on your podcast and your show,
Hmm.
and you really have this amazing scope of
Yeah.
reference that most of us don't. Let's face
Right.
it. I mean,
I
we
talk to
might,
so many people. It's
yeah,
fascinating.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I really like that idea of, as we get, so I'm 62, and
Hmm.
I see a lot of times now, one of the trends that here I'm in the Texas, I'm in Texas. One of the
Wonderful.
big things I'm seeing, and I'm way in the country, so
Yeah.
I
Go
don't have
ahead.
any of these amenities. But in like Dallas and bigger areas where they're retirement communities, but they don't really
Yes.
call them retirement communities. So you
Yes.
sort of start where you can actually buy your own home and they maintain the property, and there's
Yes.
gyms and there's health clubs and there's even lounges and bars and restaurants
Oh,
and
that's fun.
everything all like within the compound. And
Wow.
then as your needs maybe increase for assistance, there's different levels or different locations that you can move up to within the community. I don't know. I think that's fairly big in most of the larger centers anyhow.
It is here in Atlanta as well. And in my particular area, I've been here for over 30 years. And so I raised my kids here. And now, I'm aging out.
Right.
So I have now moved with my husband to a beautiful cottage, a smaller home, primary on the main, and somebody else maintains our exterior. Now, I still have some, herb boxes and things like that that are raised because I'm getting older and I have a bad
Right.
back. So it's just perfect for us. And I would say most people in my little neighborhood, it's not a 55 plus neighborhood, but for all intents and purposes, it is.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
And I think that's the thing is you can look around now and you're not locked into, you're either a property owner doing everything yourself or
Yes.
you're in an assisted living facility. I mean, that was kind of
There's,
the only two things that there
I
was.
know.
Now there's so many more options. And I'm even seeing adults only condos and
Hmm.
hotels that are being converted to, there's so many floors are hotels and then the rest are like condos on the top. And
Residents on the top.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Really neat
yeah,
because they get to use all the amenities.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So there's so many different opportunities and so many different options.
Mm.
When you're talking to people, is there any sort of, now I'm putting you on the spot here as a realtor, is there any sort of key signs that maybe a home is not the way that you would recommend they go? If they're moving out of the marital home and they're looking at, should I downsize or should I lateral or should I even maybe increase the space I'm living in? Are there any kind of guidelines or criteria that you recommend to people to take a self-assessment of that?
Absolutely. So the wheelhouse assessment has 8 areas. And so typically what I see being the most important are finance,
Sure.
health, and family. So if you're a single person, that's going to really affect where you're going next. Or if you're a single person with 2 teenagers, you may need a 3 bedroom place, right?
Yeah.
And if you have a dog, maybe you need, so it's really going around the entire wheel. Do you have a dog? What is your health like? Can you climb stairs? So there are questions in every single area. And the life transition of going through a divorce makes it a unique situation because you may have to decide quickly, or there's other people involved.
Right.
It may not be of your choosing. There are other emotions. It's not usually a joyous occasion. And so
Right.
that adds a lot more stress. The process is pretty much the same of what is going to make your life better.
Yeah.
What kind of living situation will make your life better? I can think of so many scenarios where do you need some sort of passive income? And I know someone who bought a home in Atlanta in a cute little area, and she's got an added dwelling unit, an ADU in the back, and she rents that out
Sure.
to now supplement. She can live in a nice home and have enough bedrooms for her children, and she now rents the back area out that's separate so they're still safe and you can screen folks,
Right.
and now
Right.
she makes a good supplemental income.
Right.
So it's each, and she was open to that because she's very much extrovert and likes
Right.
that kind of homekeeping,
Right.
beautiful little place back there. So each particular circumstance is different, so that's why there are so many questions in each area, to determine like what are your most painful pain points right now
Right.
and what would fix that.
And I think you have a gift for the listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I think this is the perfect time to introduce this.
Sure. So it kind of ties in with, walking. So it's called the lifestyle lift assessment, and it's on my website, which is lifestylefoundations.com. And it's basically just a 10-minute assessment that you can print out or you can look at it on your screen, and you walk through your home in you go to a certain room and you pick one of the wheel of life areas and you see if it's functioning the way it should be. So your kitchen, for example, would probably be a good example of like family and friends. Does
Right.
it suit? Is it big enough? Is your work triangle, like, do you get in the way if you're cooking with other people? Can your kids study at the counter while you're making dinner so you can hear about their day? That kind of thing.
Right. And that's
Hmm.
such a valuable tool because it's not something again that most people have sort of the understanding of. Whereas if you've got a
Hmm.
guide to guide you through this, you're going to get
Yes.
a really clear reflection. And hey, why spend all the time and money in divorce arguing over a house if you know that's not the place that you want to be and it's not going to suit
Right.
who you want to be? You can maybe
Good
just
point.
say, hey, that's a good leverage tool, right? You can have the house, but this is
Yeah.
what I want. And
That's right.
sometimes that's all you need to do.
That's right.
Kim, you
Add a
have
zero to that other figure, and you can have the house.
yes, my lump sum payment or whatever you're going to adjust for. Kim, you have shared a ton of information and really got me thinking about, do people really spend enough time doing this kind of thought process during the divorce? And probably the answer is no. So thank you for opening our eyes to that. What do you think is the biggest takeaway you want people to remember as they go on about their busy days?
Well, I think, obviously look out for yourself, and not just monetarily, but look out for yourself and your well-being through your surroundings. It's about the furniture. It's about making yourself feel safe. It's about feeling love and belonging in your home. And part of that disappears in a divorce. And so I think if you could just take a moment, hit the pause button, and figure out how to get some of that love and belonging for yourself back in your surroundings, I think that will help you get through.
I think and I love that idea of safety, because a lot of times people don't feel safe if they're living single after being married for decades. It can be a little it will be overwhelming being on your own. So thank you for sharing that. Kim, one more time, what's the website if people want to find out more about what you do, grab your gift, or maybe reach out and work with you?
Sure. Okay. So it's Lifestyle Foundations with an S, lifestylefoundations.com. And so you can pre-order the book. You can eventually join a workshop. It'd be fun to have a divorcee workshop one day.
Yes.
That'd be interesting. And just connect with me in any way.
Thank you so much, Kim. And thank you for sharing all of this. And I'm going to make sure all the information gets in the show notes. So if you're driving or you're trying to write this down when you're out busy doing all your busy errands and stuff, don't worry about it. It'll be in the show notes. Kim, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you sharing this expertise. And thank you. And thank you everyone for listening to this episode of The D Shift. And don't forget to tune in to the next one. Thanks for listening and supporting the D Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.